Welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, and the many ways to achieve financial independence. We interview accomplished investors and entrepreneurs with the goal that their stories inspire you to take control of your financial future. Here to get your creative juices flowing, while also documenting their own personal investing journeys, are your hosts, Corey Jacobson and Ryan Bevilacqua.
Welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Corey, here with another episode. Today, we had a very fun episode. We interviewed a gentleman named Andrew. He's known as the Millennial Money Veteran on Instagram, and we've been following each other for quite some time. He's really involved in the FIRE movement, so that's the Financial Independence Retire Early movement, and there's a bunch of different layers to like lean FIRE, fat FIRE. You can look them all up, but that's kind of how we got into the talks of money. We started studying the FIRE movement, and to bring it back to Andrew, he dove into the movement, was making, he built himself up, went to college, and then got a job at one of the big four accounting firms, and he was making over $200,000 a year, and so started investing in real estate on the side, and kind of built himself up and his portfolio up to a point where he was now able to retire at age 30, and ended up leaving his job for a little bit. And funny enough, let us know today that he decided to go back into the workforce because he was bored of being an entrepreneur and just wanted to have some quote unquote FU money, but really play money to be able to not think about his bank accounts every day and just spend on what he wants to spend at a whim. And I think it was just a very fun full circle moment to have one of our loyal followers. He started with us on the second episode. He's like, dude, I started.
Don't go back and listen to that, by the way. It's a terrible episode.
He didn't hate it, but don't go back. And said he's just been following us ever since. And we talk frequently, but it was really fun to bring on someone that has kind of grown with us and then started implementing some of these strategies in his own life, retired by 30. So I just loved it, man.
Yeah, me too. It was a, like you said, full circle, but also very philosophical in the sense of like, what's the why behind even doing any of this, and the kind of the teetering of the seesaw of being an entrepreneur versus the full-time job. And this is a lifestyle architecture episode. And I said that phrase in the during the pod, but basically like designing a life that you really enjoy living, and not just for the money, not just for the things, not just for even the real estate itself. What do you really enjoy doing? And Andrew kind of built his life around that, and he's fun, man. Actually, candidly, and I don't know if he wanted us to share this or not, but it's his first podcast he's ever done, and I thought he was pretty good. So it was fun. Like he really, he showed his personality because he's very private online. But I think if you're listening to him, you will likely relate to his story, and that's what it's all about.
Yep. And I forgot to mention he was also in the military too.
Yes.
And so that's kind of the play on
Millennial Money Veteran. Check him out on Instagram. He's great. He's got a lot of real estate, a lot of personal finance, but let's hear his story just firsthand.
Let's bring him in. Having purchased investment properties as well as primary residences, we know how daunting it can be to find a reliable lender to secure financing for real estate in the market today. With the up and down of the market, high interest rates, and the complexity of the process, honestly, it can feel like a lot. So to help out our community, we decided to bring on probably the most important person, or one of the most important members of our personal real estate investing team, onto the show to help out our listeners. Our mortgage lender, Travis David of CMG Home Loans, has agreed to educate our community and assist anyone looking for real estate financing. Whether you're a real estate investor looking to fund your next project, or simply looking to purchase a primary residence, Travis will be able to help you and point you in the right direction. So he provides each of his clients with a tailored roadmap designed to guide them through purchasing their first investment property and strategically scale their portfolios over time. So if you're looking to either purchase your first residence, or maybe second residence, but a primary residence, or invest in real estate, Travis is your guy. Visit our website at www.juice-enterprises.com/need-funding to book a call with Travis to explore all the loan packages that him and his team currently have available. He'll also help assess your current situation and will work with you to map out a plan for the future. So just remember this, we can all win. This is an example we really wanted to help out our community, and something we find people are lacking in a daunting process. So if you are looking for real estate financing, we have your back. Make sure to visit our website and Travis will take care of you. Have you been struggling to close more real estate deals? Maybe you're a flipper, wholesaler, or simply looking to purchase a long-term rental property. Having done our fair share of investing in deals over the years, we've learned just how difficult it can be to find high-quality leads and motivated sellers that you can work with. To help solve the problem for us within our business, we hired a team of professionally trained cold callers at REI Call Center who make up to 2,000 calls for us per day. They not only nurture leads that come in, but they also add the leads directly to a CRM, which is known as a customer relationship management software, for us to manage so we can keep everything organized. To take it a step further, they also set us up with a dialer, weekly training calls, and a file vault of documents including scripts and contracts. So if you're looking to take your real estate business or investing portfolio to the next level, visit our Instagram page, our handles at Weekly Juice Pod, and click on the link in our bio to book a free 15-minute discovery call with REI Call Center today. Quick public service announcement for all of our listeners. First off, we want to thank you all for tuning into the show, not only this week, but we've seen you coming back episode after episode. And one thing we'd really like your assistance on, if possible, you know that our content's free and it takes a lot to pump this out every week. We're really looking to enhance our overall reviews on the show. That can be on Spotify, but mainly we are looking for Apple Podcasts. If you could please leave us a 5-star review, that will go so long and so far for us. Really, when people are looking to get on shows, they look to see how many 5-star reviews that show has and the number of reviews. So if you haven't left one, please just click on our show. You can scroll down to reviews and then leave the 5-star. Even if you can write a little blurb about us, like what maybe has helped motivate you or anything that is relatable to your life, that would go such a long way for us. And then in turn, it allows us to get high quality guests for future episodes. So if there's been a motivating episode that you can really think back to and that has really helped you in your life, please leave a review because we'll be able to get someone like that on the show in the future to help someone else out. So that would be very much appreciated. And we look forward to continuing more episodes for you. All right, Andrew, officially welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast. We are so excited to have you on the show, man. We have been talking for a long time back and forth on Instagram. I think we both have very similar communities and we're in the FIRE movement, real estate investing, and trying to build that life that most people dream about and put it into action early on in our lives. So we are thrilled to have you on the show, man, and we can't wait for your story to be shared with our listeners.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, man. So let's just talk maybe the start of your FIRE journey. I think that probably makes the most sense. Take us pre-Instagram page and putting your story out there and what you have done to kind of like build up your story and get yourself to retirement by age 30.
Yeah. So I created my account, Millennial Money Veteran, back in December of 2018. And this was about 4 months after I got out of the Army. I started my first corporate job, and I joined a consulting firm, one of the big four, and I thought I really made it. People were really happy for me. They thought that I was, basically it was the vision of success, right? As you get out of the military, you find your first job, you join a prestigious company, and that's what I thought. And so I went in. Within the first 3 months, I realized that I did not enjoy the work. And I was questioning myself, like, can I really do this until like 60 years old? And for me, like early retirement was like, maybe retiring at maybe 60, that was like that's what I guess most people assume, right? Before you kind of enter this community. And I was making like just around like 6 figures, like 100K first job, and I thought I was doing really well. And then I realized that I'm basically living paycheck to paycheck, and honestly, I was living better when I was in the military because I wasn't paying as much to live because I was usually in the Army, the duty stations are in like the middle of nowhere, so it's pretty cheap, and part of our income isn't taxed, so that helps a lot. And yeah, I felt like I was really comfortable living in the Army. It's just, obviously the work lifestyle wasn't great. But when getting out, I was literally living paycheck to paycheck. Like one of my paychecks was going to my rent and mortgage. And then, it just added up, man. And I was like wondering, like, there has to be a better way of like, making more money because I don't want to keep living paycheck to paycheck. And then I remember it was like November. It was like around Thanksgiving. I was browsing around looking for like some ideas on how to make money. And then I stumbled upon FIRE and I'm like, what the heck is this? And then FIRE, I just kept on reading and reading and reading. And I was like, this is crazy. Like there are people doing this kind of stuff. And then, the more I read it, the more I believed it. And, I think that's always the first step. Once you believe it, like you start taking action on it. And then I decided January 2019, I'm going to start on this FIRE movement. And I created my account in December and I really started it, giving myself like, oh, this new year, like I'm going to start this. So fast forward to now, like I mean, I have a pretty loyal following. A lot of my followers have been following me for a long time. And I just, continually like posting just what's going, like basically updates on my life, but also like ways that my learning experiences I can share with others, because everyone's joining this FIRE movement at different stages in life. So I
Yeah.
use my social media as a way to connect and, help people out.
Cool. So that's great. You actually did do exactly what you said you were going to do too. And for people that don't know, Andrew's page is Millennial Money Veteran. So in his bio it says retired at 30. So he took those few years and actually achieved this financial freedom, right? You mentioned you were doing lean fire, right? That came from some real estate investments and some other things that we'll get into. But it's always funny how people celebrate kind of the traditional things, right? Like the traditional graduation, getting a big job, like that is so celebrated in society. There's people like crying at graduations, right? Like, and no disrespect, like it is an accomplishment in a way, for sure. I think it just depends on how you look at it. And I think it's driven into people's heads to celebrate those types of things, where you were like, you got 3 months into this fancy, quote unquote, because it is fancy to get a big four job. And you're like, this is just not what I thought. And I think a lot of people have that realization. It's very, very commonplace. So I'm curious about what are the things you specifically did once you read about FIRE, you heard about it. I know you bought some real estate, but what were some of the strategies that you put into place to take the 6-figure salary and then become, maybe reduce your lifestyle to be able to become financially free by 30 years old?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I already had 2 properties, and this is like before I even like really knew how to really analyze properties. Like I was able to see the trends, right? Like, okay, there's this area is obviously growing. This city is having has more jobs, and there's already you can read the local news and you can see like the developments that are happening. So I had properties, and it was really just based on like, oh, like once this is paid off, like this is completely cash flow. And at the time, like they were like pretty good purchases, but looking back now, like they were amazing. Like if you can go back to like 2017, 2018, like I'll be snatching up almost every property that's on the market, knowing what I know now. So it was like really quick analysis of like this is what I would be paying for rent if I to live here, but if I just bought this place, I can pretty much pay almost the same amount, and I can live there and own it. And I just had those. It was pretty much like just breaking even. But my first step after learning about all this was obviously decreasing expenses. And I kind of went into this I guess like this negative like train of like I just wanted to keep on saving and saving and saving, and to the point where it's like really it made my life uncomfortable. And I was just trying to figure out ways. And like my breaking point at that was maybe a year in. I was like thinking like, all right, I was in the military. I could literally like sleep anywhere. Like I don't need I don't even need a bed. I could sleep on the ground and whatnot, right? And I was like, I have a paid off car. I'm like, should I just sleep there? And this is when I was like just moved to LA, and I was like, do I really want to spend $1,300 to split a apartment with someone when I could just live in my car? And I was thinking about the logistics of it, and I was just like, after like 3 days of deliberating on that, I was just like, am I freaking crazy? Like, just to save $1,300, like this is like nuts, because it would make a huge impact on my life, where I have to like go to the gym to shower, and like I won't be comfortable at all. And then that's when like I guess everything switched in my head. I was like, I need to stop focusing on saving and start focusing on making money. And from then I switched over to like, all right, I need to make money. It's like, let me focus on real estate, because I already have properties. I'm making some money on it. And I know I can do better. So that's kind of where I switched over to real estate. And then obviously I focused on my career as well, because the promotion and progression of the pay, it's pretty significant compared to other industries. And those two combined allowed me to retire at 30.
Cool. So it's funny that you mentioned that. We've had David Green on the show, and he's like, there's only, the reason why I brought his name up is because he's like, if you want to learn how to make your own soap, like you can do that, right? And you can reduce your expenses all the way down to nothing. But it's like, I'd rather be working and doing something I like, at least, maybe not love, than try to live in my car, right? Like, or that. So I think that it's interesting but the brain does that. It's kind of like this protection barrier where it's like security, like, go, and it could take you as low as trying to like make your own soap or whatever. So, but the real truth is that increasing your income is really the way.
Mhm.
So you did both, which I think is awesome. Talk to me about some of the real estate deals that you started to do. What were you looking for? You mentioned you had two, but I know you got up to seven at one point and you scaled back a little bit, probably taking proceeds.
Mhm.
So what deals were you looking for? You mentioned LA. I don't know if you were buying them in LA. It's a pretty expensive market. So what did you look for?
Yeah, so at that point, the first two properties, they were, well, the first one was I bought it when I was in the Army. Once I left, I rented it out. That one had done really well. That was in Colorado Springs. Uh, I, I mean, I could tell the numbers now because I bought it for
Yeah.
260-ish, and then I sold it for 485 5 years later. And then I used the whole primary gains exclusion, section 121, to kind of pretty much get all that capital gains tax free, minus the depreciation recapture. But I switched over to short term rentals in 2020. So this was a really pivotal moment because I wasn't familiar with really short term rentals. I knew what they were, and like I was like, it's going to be a lot more work. But because my goal was fire, I wanted to focus more on cash flow because I realized like my thing is like I could build up my wealth to like 2 million and retire based on like withdrawal rates and living expenses, or I could just produce cash flow that can support my monthly expenses. And I was like, if I'm going to be spending all this money on real estate, I might as well just generate the most revenue I can with that asset, even if I have to put in a little more work, because I'm not the type where I just want to chillax and just kind of like live off and just go on vacation all the time. Like I don't mind working at all. Like I don't mind putting in the effort, putting in the additional work just to get that additional benefit. And I made that switch where I when I sold those rentals. I did 1031 before. I used the proceeds for that, primary exclusion gains, and bought bought vacation rentals, purely just vacation rentals. And one of my units I have in Colorado, it's basically a 3 unit. It's a single family with an ADU, but the single family is a makeshift duplex that has like a upper portion and a lower portion. I rent those out separately. They have kitchen, bath, all separate. And then the ADU, I decided to experiment with short-term rentals with that one first. And it's nerve-wracking. Your first one, you have your first guest, and you're like checking the app and making sure like you're not getting messages and all that. And after the first 3 guests, I was just like, this is doable. So let me just like continue on. And just for comparison, if I rented that one long term, at that time I would have probably got made like $800-900 a month. But with short term rental, I was able to make 1,500, and it was like really consistent, just because it was more used as like a medium term rental. And for me, it's almost the same thing. Like I still manage my own units, so it's basically the same thing. I'm always on my phone anyway. I can respond to crises, and like I can make do with it. So yeah, I pivoted over to short term rentals purely, and it's been a really good decision. I'm glad I got into it when I did, just because it allowed me to retire a little bit earlier and kind of experience that retirement.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the short-term rentals because we don't manage our own, and we couldn't even fathom managing them. And you mentioned it was easy for you. I'm curious, you don't live there, but it's not just responding to guests. It's setting up the cleaners, being able to have maintenance people come in. Were you just manually like you had a cleaner in that area? Like they knew they got your schedule. They knew when to come in. How did you set up that management strategy? Because it's not, you made it sound easy, but for a lot of people, I don't know that it is. I mean, it wouldn't be easy for us. I know that.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a learning curve. I like to think of it as I like to overthink things a lot. So I think of like scenarios. But one of the things is implementing technologies that allow you to kind of manage it remotely. Two is really just choosing the right people based on like what you need. So for technology, obviously, I use smart locks. I have calendar sync for my cleaning so that my cleaning team they can see when they need to clean without me having to do anything. And then you make sure that that team is well equipped, so they have the several members of their team, so that I'm not relying on like one or two people, and also that they're used to this type of work, where they're coming in for a short clean. They know how to turn it around really quickly, and they're able to easily get to the property if anything were to happen. Like, so like if something were to happen, like where, this linen is like, has a stain or something. All right. I'm telling my cleaner, hey, can you go over there and just swap it out? No problem. So, Those are the ways I'm able to do it. And I like to think of it as, the less you're attached to the property you are, the easier it is to do it. Honestly, I know it's not easy to do it, especially with your first one. You have like some sort of emotional attachment. It was really hard for me to sell my first property. Like, but I was trying to think objectively. I'm like, well, I'm going to get this tax free. So, the numbers speak for itself.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The short-term rentals, I'm very curious about this. Have you sold, are they still performing since when you started to now? Have you sold any of those, or are those ones still churning for you? Because there's a big difference for a lot of people between 2020, 2021 and 2023 and 2024 when it comes to short-term rentals. I'm curious how your properties are performing, or if you were like, you got to a certain point, you had enough cash flow, it built up the equity, and you sold some of those as well.
Yeah, so I did sell one. I bought it purely as a short-term rental. I eventually ended up selling it. It was in Tampa. I know you have one in Tampa too.
Yeah.
So it was performing well. It was performing as I expected. The problem was that it required a lot more of my time to manage it. I don't know what it is, but the guests there just gave me so much trouble for whatever reason. Like, it was just always something. Like, I remember one time a guest used their car, put it onto the lawn because it was raining. They wanted to unload, stuff from the SUV, and then it eventually cracked the pipe for whatever reason. It was like a pipe to the outdoor hose or something like that. And it started spewing out water from the ground, and they had no water into the unit. And I'm just like, why'd you even like bring your car into the lawn just to avoid the rain a little bit? It was just kind of ridiculous. I remember I was outside of a bar at 12 a.m. like on the phone with my plumber, and then the guests were like, "When is he going to be finished?" I'm like, "I don't know. Why don't you ask him? Go out in the rain and ask him." Like, he's like getting all muddy, and like, he was out there for like an hour and a half digging like 4 feet down or whatever.
Yeah. These are the stories that people are kind of afraid to talk about. I'm glad you're being candid with it, because that's the reason that I have a management company. I'm not as far away as you were from that, but I'm 2,000 miles away, and some of the issues I just don't want to know about. Just charge me for it, and make sure it gets fixed, and I'll deal with the ramifications of that. Like, I had a new pool heater that needed to be installed immediately when I bought the place. That's $6,000, so that was fun. But the point is that there's people in place that can handle it, and yeah, you kind of learn, like, managing a short-term rental. If you have your systems in a certain area, it works. If you're far away, it's difficult. Now, that being said, if you do know what you're doing, and I know you did, you can make a ton of money doing it. But the market has shifted, and it's not like a long-term rental where the tenants, I say, the guests are like, yeah, just come in the next few days. Like, it's fine. It's like, no, if an issue happens, like, you need to be there, like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, something like that, so that their experience can be like that of a 5-star hotel. That's what you're competing with. So I love the strategy there. Did you make some money on the sale of that property?
Yeah, thank God. So I actually made back the money I put into it in terms of like the furnishing and some of the renovations I did. And I was able to sell it for a profit. I have to actually pay tax on it today, so it's like, I'm glad it was off my plate. Like, I could have made making like about 30K more in cash flow in the year, minus all the principal pay down and all that, but to me, it just wasn't worth it. That one gave me more headache than my other 3 properties combined. Like, and I was just like, it's over. Like, I need to get rid of it. And, it was better suited for someone to live there. And, I was just happy to be done with it.
So I have a question for you. Thanks for the breakdown on all this, man. This is awesome. I'm curious. You mentioned at one point you had 7 properties, then you scaled back. Can you talk to, I know you mentioned, hey, I wanted to get more into the short-term rental space to increase cash flow, and rather than focusing on building that long-term wealth that you can't touch for a while. But was there any other strategy in why you sold these properties? And the reason I'm asking this, I'm thinking, you mentioned making like almost 200 grand in profit on one of them. Was that to go buy the other properties? And like, just talk to the decision on when you were going to sell them, right? And why, and like how it played into your trajectory of reaching this FIRE number.
Yeah, so that first property I bought, it was in 2017. And then in 2022, it was the 5-year mark. And I was like, all right, well, if I don't sell it now, then I'm going to get taxed on it later. I was going to fall out of that 5-year window because I lived in it initially for almost 2 years. And then I rented it out after that. So That was more of like a time constraint where I needed to sell it to use the equity that I had built. And that was going to be shifted over to short-term rentals. That property was cash flowing. My mortgage was like $1,300, and I was renting it for like $1,850, and it could have gone more because I was in 2022, and 2023, 2024. I could probably be renting it for close to 2,000 right now. And that would have been like maybe $500 monthly cash flow after all the expenses and stuff. But I used the proceeds for that to buy one of my short-term rentals, and that one cash flows about $2,500 a month on average throughout the year. Obviously seasonal, but averaged out throughout the year, it's about $2,500 a month. So, the additional $2,000 a month, like, I don't know, I can't really complain.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
yeah, and I initially, when I switched over from 2020 to kind of increase my income, I used all my savings to buy my first true investment property where I did 20% down. I fixed it up a little bit, and that one I owned it from 2020, sold it in 2022 in 2 years, and I did a 1031 on that. That one only had about $100 of equity.
$100?
100 grand.
I mean, 100 grand of equity.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and I did 1031 that into my last rental that I bought in 2022. And that one does really well in the summertime. It's seasonal. It's in a beach town. During the off season, which is from like September all the way to March, it's kind of like I'll be lucky to even break even on that. But
Sure.
during the summer months, I'm cash flowing 10, 15K. So
Wow.
it evens out. So as long as you can like kind of make it through the off season, just wait for the peak season, like you're good.
Yeah. A lot of vacation markets are like that, really. I mean, like I've lucked out in a way in Tampa. I'm booked all year round, but the rates are significantly higher in the winter. Like it's just not even close, right? The Pocono Mountains, the spring and the fall are pretty shitty actually. Like you'll probably break even. Winter is very good. Summer's unbelievable. So like, it's seasonal. Almost any vacation rental is seasonal. What I want to talk about here is the fact that you were able to reach this financial independence. A lot of people think like, I got to have 100 properties or I got to have 50 properties. I got to build up this huge amass of $10-20 million so that I can live. And you did it on 7 properties and, obviously some other smart financially savvy moves. I don't want to touch on that as much as the fact that you retired and now you're going to go back into the workforce. And I want to just talk about the psychology of that, because I think what it does for people is it gives them to not put retirement in air quotes on a pedestal. It's really about doing what you want to do. And you're going back to work by choice, not because you have to. You've built the significant income. You basically are playing Monopoly with these properties and gaining some equity and trading them up for another one and doing the same thing. And you're slowly growing your portfolio. You're set financially to live a modest life, right? That's great. But you're still going back to work. And the reason I want to bring this up for people that are listening, it's like, don't try to rush to retirement just for the money, because you will be. We said this beforehand. You said you were bored. And I think I think it's interesting. Like what was it about? You said you like to think a lot. What was it about that? Were you satisfied and just like, hey, I think I still want to, I take a job that makes sense for me? Like what was the psychology behind it? I'm curious.
Yeah. I was almost like, I retired, like not voluntarily. I actually got laid off in 2023 from my job. And, at that point I was already so burnt out. I was actually happy to be laid off. I got an awesome severance package. Like, I worked at the company for 2 years. I made a ton of money. Like, at that time I was making like $200K a year, but I was working ridiculous hours. Like, I'll be on phone calls at like 6:30 in the morning, and then my fiance, she'll wake up at like 7:30, and she'll be like, "You're still on a call? Like, you got up in the middle of the night to take a call, whatever." And I would, there were nights where I actually ended work at like 10 p.m. And, I have teams offshore where they're in Europe or they're in India. And I'm connecting with the people in India because they're starting their work at that time. And I'm handing off at like 11 p.m. Like, and it was been like that for like basically almost the entire 2 years I was there. And I was, after when I got laid off, I was actually happy. I was like, it's finally over. Like I could take a break. But I decided to just, I was like, I have enough to kind of retire, very lean fire way. I couldn't just, buy whatever I wanted, but, I can easily support my living expenses. So I took that year off. And to be honest, like, yeah, I got bored. At the first 3 months, it was kind of weird because it was like I was happy, then I was sad, and I was like happy again, and then it's kind of like the reality was sitting in. So I went through that roller coaster during the first 3 months, and throughout the rest of the year, I was just doing whatever I wanted, and it honestly got boring because it was like I didn't know what day it was. Like I didn't know if it was like a Friday or a Sunday. It all felt the same, and there's so many times where people would reach out to me, and then they'll mention like, let's meet up on this day. I'm like, what day is today? Like, oh, that's like 2 days from now. Okay, cool. And it was just like that. And I decided to go into a workforce because while I was retired, I wasn't like just blowing my money on whatever. I was still living pretty modestly. But I was having to pay attention to my paycheck. I had to pay attention to the bills. Like if I went to eat at a restaurant, like I had to like look at it, the total, and then kind of think like, all right, I should still, I'll be good enough. I shouldn't spend more next week though. I should probably dial it down. And I got tired of that because, when I was working, I was making significantly more than I needed. I didn't have to look at like price tags or anything like that. And I kind of missed that. So, and also I just needed some sort of schedule to abide by. So I decided to shift. I started looking for a job in, late 2023. I just got an offer that I was really happy about. Really good work-life balance. It's a significant pay cut than when I was making in consulting, but, I don't need a lot, just I was happy with it. And it's more for like the work-life balance, some income so that I don't have to like keep eyeing my bank account, and just being able to live life. I wanted something that was sustainable, not something that was just really, really demanding, even if I got paid more. Because at a certain amount, certain time limit, you realize it's really not worth it.
Yeah. Andrew, that's earned though. I mean, I'll let you chime in here, right? But like that's earned, and you should be proud of it. Like you're going back in the workforce by choice because you're saying like, hey, I'm not desperate. I don't need to go take a $200,000 job, even if you can make that, which you clearly can and you have. It's like I'll take whatever you're making. It's like you're doing it because you're doing what's called like lifestyle architecture. We've talked about this is exactly how I want to live my life, and it's I say a privilege, but it's an earned privilege. So go ahead.
Yeah, I like to riff off this a little bit because this is such an interesting topic, and I think the psychology behind it, to both your guys' points, is it's just interesting, right? Like you found your way toward retirement, right? And you got there and then you were bored and you're like, what am I doing? Like you got to think about like everybody else your age, or like the majority of your friends and your peers are probably working 9 to 5 or at least Monday through Friday. So that you not knowing your schedule and then, you reaching out to them to hang out, they're probably like, yeah, man, I can, but it's a Tuesday and they can't, right? Like a lot of society is still doing that. So it's an interesting dynamic. You're like at home doing what you want, but then you're like, can you do it with the people you want to?
Exactly. It's almost like, what's the point if you can't bring the people along with you, right?
Totally.
In a way.
And then I also think about, you mentioned a point of waking up at crazy hours or staying up late hours. And I'm like, dude, that's entrepreneurship as well. Even if you had a very high paying W-2 job, right? You're making 200 plus grand a year, right? Imagine an entrepreneur that's trying to take their business off the ground, doesn't even come close to that 200 grand, but they're still grinding those hours plus the job. So they're working overtime. It's just a weird thing where I think we bash, and I'm all for the FIRE movement, and I'm also all for like investing early so you can do what you want when you're with your time. But there's people would probably rebuttal at this point to say, hey, listen, guys, like I actually probably would take the catastrophically large salary versus trying to grind and build something up on my own, because I don't know how many years it's going to take when this is set in stone. In stone, I say that with like kind of an open context there, because you could get fired, could get laid off, right? But it's just so interesting. It depends on you. I think that's why I'm bringing it up. Like for someone, they might be completely fulfilled with doing that, and they want to work the 9 to 5 till they're 60, and or maybe they do it 10 years because they're making 300 grand, and then they move their money around, or they take more pride in having purpose behind their work, like your page, and helping other people out, and us with the podcast, and like elevating others just to show them there's another way, and educating them what they haven't quite learned in school. So there's a crazy dynamic there, man. And I'm glad we got to share your story, because you made it to that point of where people are like, I could never make it to retirement by 30. You did it. And you're like, yeah, I was kind of bored. So well, at least now that I have a decision, now I'm going back, found work-life balance. Even though it's a pay cut, I'm happy. I'm going to be surrounded by people again. I'm going to be on, similar schedules, but also I'm not stressed for cash, right? Like this is just all icing on the cake at this point. You can go buy what you want. You have the luxuries. And hey, if you're 6 months in, you're like, dude, this sucks. I'm out. You're out. Like, who cares? Where other people are handcuffed, right? So there's so many pros and cons. I think it's a very fun conversation to have. And it's not a lot of people think about it full circle like that. And you're a real life success story, man. So it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people, like if you see your LinkedIn posts, like you just see a lot of people who are laid off. And yeah, if you look at like Reddit forums, like people have been jobless for like 9 months. And it's really like that right now. The current job market, it's really tough. You have all these people who are laid off in tech and consulting and other industries. And it's really competitive to even get one job like interview, just because there's so many qualified candidates applying to the same jobs. And I'm fortunate where when that happened to me, I was actually, happy, I was like, I mean, I'm pretty happy because I like my work, my life is going to be a lot better now because I don't have to spend 60 hours a week on calls and doing all these PowerPoints and all that. It was freeing, but I can't, not everyone is, is able to do that. So it's tough right now.
It's funny, Andrew, that you mentioned PowerPoints and consulting because I'm just like, that's what consulting is. You're just doing PowerPoints all day. I have friends. I bring this up because I have friends, and I think Ryan and I both take this for granted. It's I haven't interviewed for a job. I don't know if I ever interviewed for a job. You probably did your first year.
I did my first year.
Yeah, your first year, but that's what 11 years ago, right? So like, I didn't even interview for that job. I interviewed for my first job out of school, but it was a connection of somebody I knew. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't interview for my second, and my third one was my family's business. And now the entrepreneurship, we don't interview, we just do this stuff, right? So I say this because you mentioned the candidates. Like, so I talked to some people, family members, friends. They're like, you don't understand like how, like you'll go through like 12 rounds of interviews and get all the way to the end. And they're like, oh man, I know you're 32, but we really wanted someone with 20 years experience. You're like, okay, well, why'd I get all this? How'd I get all this way? What, you wanted me to start when I was 12? And like, I didn't realize that that's a thing. And we're of the mindset, like, just do it. But it really is crazy out there for people that are trying to get interviews for jobs. So maybe when you do get it, there's a couple of mindsets that you have to have. Okay, I got this job. I got to provide the value, but also knowing that could end at any time. Like, it's not as secure. It seems secure, but it's not as secure as you think. So building the side hustles and doing the things that you've done, even if you only own 3 or 4 properties. Like, I have some good friends I'm going on vacation with next week, and he owns 4 properties. He just bought his primary residence. So he's like kind of bought a property and then rented it out, bought a property and rented it out. And like, the appreciation that he's seen is setting up his future. He's not trying to be some real estate mogul or like even do what we're doing. He's just like, I have this extra income that's coming in. He's a financial planner, so he kind of does his own thing, but he still works for somebody, and things could happen with the market. So having that side business, call it a business, call it a side hustle, whatever it is that you've built in the community, it's almost like necessary now to do. And I don't know if you have thoughts about that.
Yeah. I mean, like my page is primarily like real estate, personal finance. But honestly, I see real estate as just a tool. It was a tool for me to really leverage assets to have some cash flow to help me retire. But I don't plan to be a real estate mogul either. It's something I could do on the side. It doesn't take that much time. All you need is really capital and just connecting with the right people and just doing the analysis. Just get the spreadsheet out, plug in some numbers, see if it works out. But yeah, it really is just a tool. So that's why where a lot of people follow me is because, I've been there. I've done like almost every strategy there is for like residentials. Like it's simple. I've done it for years, and it's possible for anyone to do it. It's just one tool. You should still have a good financial, situation. But yeah, I just see it as a tool, and I'm still pursuing other things where it's kind of going to be, it's going to make up the rest of my financial picture. I just recently just started an e-commerce company with my longtime best friend. And we're just doing that kind of because it's more of a passion. It's not really, we want to be like the next, like we want to be like the next Amazon or anything. It's literally just because we're passionate about it. There is a market for it. We're targeting a specific niche. And we can see ourselves doing it for a long time because of that passion. But yeah, I mean, it'll help for sure. But then we don't plan to be, exit out of it and make millions of dollars to sell it to some other company.
Yeah, it's a passion project, and I think you're able to do this now without the fear of tanking completely because your financial house is stable. And
Yeah, I'm not risking everything, So
yeah, and you mentioned real estate as just like part of the picture, and like for us, it's just one of the lanes, right? We still, some people bash on it. They're like old retirement or like traditional retirements is dead, but you still got the brokerage, you still got the 401k, you still got the IRA, then you get the real estate, then you have the businesses, like. And I know that's a lot, and everybody's like, "Oh, dude, great. What are you bragging?" But no, it's like I have all of these legs of the table. We mentioned this way back when we first started, but like your financial house is this. Think of it as a table, and all of the income streams are the different legs on it. If you kick one out, you're 9 to 5, right? If you only have one leg, you're toast. Your table falls down. Now, if you have 6 legs, you drop one, I'm good. Like and then I can go find another one to stick in the ground and build back up. And so, what I really like about real estate is, and Corey and I, we've kind of been teasing this as we've gone along this year, but we've really gotten to the creative finance space with real estate and kind of getting into deals with low to no money down. And what I really love about real estate is you can make what you'd make in a year's salary in one deal. Maybe it'll take you 3 months to put together or some longer or shorter than that, but then you're done. Like think about all the hours you grinded for that 100K. Or 150, however long. But first, like the interviews you took to get there, then all the chess you had to play within the company and build your way up, and the relationships and how long that shit took, where you could go study real estate, get good with relationships, like lines of communication and building relationships, I should say. That also helps you in real estate. I'd recommend people on that length. But one deal can take you maybe shave off 3 years of your salary that you just took so much time to build up. So that's why I love real estate. And that's where I think it can build wealth quicker. I know people say it's the long game, but if you get good at it and you implement these strategies, you can get there much quicker than you think. And so like, I always see these memes online. It's like, hey, don't get me wrong. I think for the traditional person, I think they're great, but it's like put $500 away in your brokerage or your IRA for 35 years and you'll automatically be a millionaire. That's great. Like by 60, you have $1 million. Awesome. But what are you going to do in between that time? And can you do that? Can you still do that? But then make the process quicker, add real estate in the mix. Then you're a millionaire no matter what. If you keep putting that $500 in that brokerage, but you have real estate along the way too, to be able to do things quicker. And that's just one lane. You have e-com, you have all this. There's a lot of stuff that you can weave in. But for us, that's why real estate's our bread and butter. And the thing that we back the most, like I rather stick my money in the ground and have it pay me back like an oil well, right? Like it makes the most sense to me. And that's why I don't want to divert off the path. Just find a niche. We've tried a million like you have, right? Like what works, doesn't work. What do you like? You might get into it. Even if it makes you more money, it might totally suck and it drains your life out of you. So we pivot and we try something else. So the moral is real estate.
Yeah, and I love the passion project that you're talking about with e-commerce. It sounds like it's something that you want to do. At the end of the day, you kind of need that purpose too. You mentioned putting $500 a month away or $1,000 a month away. You save all this time, you save all this money up, and you invest it, and then by this time you're 60, you have this money. But like, it has to be about more than the money. It has to be about more than the money because you do get bored. Like, there's people I know personally who have made it to the proverbial mountaintop, who are like, damn, like, all right, cool. Like I can buy a car, in Drake, I was listening to Drake at the gym the other day, and one of his lyrics goes, I traded in 4 Ferraris for a brand new Bugatti because it was just something to do. And it's just funny. Like we don't have that type of money. Like that's unfathomable money for us. But the point is, he's like, the game is done for him. You know what I mean? So it's about the music, right? And it's like for you, like it's cool that you have this project with the e-com. It's like for us, we like real estate. We love the podcast. We love creating the connections. If it wasn't for that, I was sitting here today, literally before we got on, and I was like, I'm in a great financial picture. And then I was kind of like, all right, now what? Like, we're on a trajectory. It's great.
You were thinking about your...
Yeah, my personal. I was like, I'm on a great trajectory. And then I'm like, nice. Like, it's cool. Like, it's great. It's awesome. I feel secure. I don't have to think about money like in the I don't have to be like
consumed
by it, but it's still like,
well, think about this.
Right, like
that moment you had, there's not a lot of people that can have that.
Oh,
I had that
100%.
Recently too.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that about it. I'm saying it in a really good way. Like there's really something about being able, and Andrew, for you too, like every day to wake up and not have that immediate stress for money. Like that weaves into your relationships, it just drains the life out of you. And so if nothing else, whether it's obviously you want to pursue the passion projects and all that, it comes with it. But to be able to build the foundation and sacrifice the years early on, or as much as you can, and just focus on it and not put it off. It will come. There will come a day where you wake up and you're like, whoa, like the weight's off my shoulders. And you don't have to be a multimillionaire, but just to know that you have enough money coming in the bank or in your assets, and that you're not stressed out. And that's an unbelievable feeling. Now we've all, us three here, have gotten there. Now it's on to the next thing. Now it's like, let's build how can we make a lot of money off our passion projects? Because that's the fun shit. And you wake up every day and you get jacked up. You're like, dude, there's been days too. And I don't know if it's because I just like became a dad and like, I don't know what day it is sometimes. People are like, when do you want to do this? I'm like, dude, I gotta be honest, man, I got no idea what day it is. And then we're going through the tasks of the side businesses. And then it's just a funny thing. When you mentioned that, it hit me. I'm like, dude, I have been there, and I literally didn't, not that I'm bored at all, but I'm just, there's so much going on. And, I don't know that if it's like a healthy thing not to know what day it is, but I want to bring it back to we are all in a good spot. And I think sometimes probably take that for granted. And a lot of people in the space, that is like the number one thing. The peace of mind is an unbelievable thing. And I think that's why I want to push people to this so much, is like, you can give yourself that peace of mind and then go find the passion project, because right now you're just trapped and consumed in maybe something that you completely hate.
No, I totally agree with that. You get money out. Coach Carson said, or not Coach Carson, it was Bigger Pockets Money. Get money out of the way so you can focus on what you want to do. I think that is huge. If you don't have that desperate feel, then it becomes more of like this light feeling of, and we do probably take it for granted. But I was driving in the car today and I was thinking like, damn, like I am really so grateful for like just how good my life is, and I think some of it's earned, some of it's privilege. There's all that shit mixed in between. Some of it's luck, but I feel like we're really on the right path. And to wake up and be grateful, you should be too, Andrew, like doing all that stuff. It's like, what are you doing it all for? And that kind of leads me to my next question for you. So we were talking a lot, but I want to hear more from you. Like, one, what is your why? Why do you do all this? Like, what's the purpose behind it for you? What gets you out of bed? And two, what are your future goals with the real estate, maybe the W-2, like your business in general? Where do you want to get to? And we'll start to wind down the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think the why is really, what you were mentioning. It's really just getting that stress out. Like, I didn't grow up in like the wealthiest family. Like my parents were immigrants. Like my mom came here with like $2,000, and they started from the very bottom. And to be where they are, and for them to give me the life that I was able to have, I'm utterly grateful, like unbelievably grateful. And but I grew up, kind of always wishing like, man, I wish I had a car at 18 like some of the other kids. I wish I had the game consoles. Like I didn't have any game consoles growing up. Like, I didn't have like any of like the luxuries and things like that. And I think that was always like a driving factor, like inherently. Like I just don't want to be in that situation where I just can't, get what I want, and I mean, but ultimately it's really just be able to do what I want. Like I don't want a lot of things. I'm not materialistic. I don't need like a Ferrari or a Lambo. I've never like really wanted those kind of things. To me, it's more of a headache than it is like an excitement. But I just want to live life and just enjoy it, because life is short. Time we have limited time. Like I don't want to be working until 65. But at the same time, like I want to be enjoying the journey of kind of just figuring out life. A lot of the things that whenever I pivoted was really because I experienced something and I realized that this isn't what I truly want. Like selling that rental in Tampa, like I could have made $30K more a year, and that would have helped me out financially, but it wasn't worth the headache. It gives me more pain than it benefited me. So, that's really my why, is just being able to do what I want, just, being able to, start the next chapter of my life with my partner, being able to live with her and everything like that, like just enjoying life and just taking care of my parents now. Like now I'm in the financial situation where I can now kind of give back to my parents. Like my dad's retired, my mom's about to retire. And it's just, it's time for me to give back, and I'm able to do that because I was able to kind of work through during my 20s. I was able to like grind just to like be at where I am now. And now I can give back a little bit. And I'm not trying to be a billionaire or anything. I'm just happy being like a millionaire.
Yeah, 100%. And our whys are similar. I have very similar aspirations in that sense, giving back to my parents, like just doing what I want when I want. I think it's life is too short to not pursue that, in my opinion. So as we wind down, future goals, like with your business, with the real estate, the what do you see yourself doing in 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, in 5 years, man, like my last 5 years has really changed. My 5 year plan has, whenever I decided on my 5 year plan, like it has shifted just based on how life goes. I didn't think I was going to retire at 30. And I didn't think I was going to go back to the workforce either. But I'm shifting careers now. Honestly, I just want to kind of like, just, just be with my fiance. We're getting married soon, so it's just kind of like starting that life, but being able to provide for her, being able to provide for my family. I am actually looking to acquire a gym. So once I settle down in DC when I'm moving, I want to actually acquire a gym, because going to the gym, I've been doing it since I was like 18. It's kind of like a passion, and I feel like as the user, being a gym goer, like I'm able to kind of make a gym that where I would be really proud to work out at. And I want to also just share that with other people. I don't think it'll take too much of like, I don't think it'll cause me too much stress. So I think it's like doable, and it's easy to add that into my life. And also just growing the e-commerce business. It's a pet food brand. So, trying to grow that and taking care of my dog and hopefully adopting another dog. Like my plans now are simple. Like I don't have big aspirations as I did when I was like in my early 20s. It's just kind of like you just live life, and you just want to be just do well enough, right? Like
just want to live, man. Enjoy your life. You just
mind.
mentioned, some passions. Like, just want to hang with my girl, man. And the gym's great, and not as simple as that, right? But I say that because sometimes people overcomplicate it, and they think they have to be this mogul, right? Dude, you can just be comfortable being you and like exploring things that you like, and actually being able to pump some money into those things and not being afraid to say, yeah, this sounds fun. Let me try it. I love the gym thing. Yeah. I would love to have my own gym.
Me too.
And you could make it, what it's lacking. It's not they're at work. We have the total side thing here, but they, for like 2 years, they didn't up any of the equipment. Like they're like, some of the handles are broken and stuff. And I brought in a couple, like, I don't know what you want to call them, like the cable things, the pulleys, and some miscellaneous items. Dude, it feels like there was a new gym in there, and it's way better. More people in there, it's packed. I'm like, dude, I feel like this stupid thing I bought on Amazon, like, just packed 3 orders in, and people are all hyped on the new gym. So needless to say, Corey and I, avid gym goers, and we need, like, that you mentioned, let off steam. Like, dude, that's like we have to go daily.
We don't feel normal unless we
I'm the same way. So I'll be there all the time anyway, so I might as well might as well own it. And the gyms I go to, like, they're not properly like managed. I think it's just kind of like they just kind of had it for years, and like it's dirty. They don't have like deep cleans periodically. Like, I'm just like, oh, man, I could totally manage it so much better.
Awesome, man. It's funny that you say that. I hate how I use the same phrases over and over. I catch myself doing it, but it's not actually funny. I'm glad you said it. But Shaquille O'Neal had a quote recently going off this topic, as he said, and he's not a billionaire, but he's close. He's pretty close, right? So he has, I think, like 50 Papa John's, and he has all these franchises. And he said, he mentioned something about, and he was getting emotional on the podcast about how he like ruined his family because of just, I don't know if it was infidelity. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it was something. He just didn't treat his family the way that they should have been treated as he was making money as he got out of the NBA. And he said, like, at a certain point, all you want is peace of mind in this world. Like, he's got everything he could ever ask for. He's a great investor. And he's like, at the end of the day, he just like, he's turning it back to simple. So it's kind of like that fisherman story. I don't know if anybody's heard that's listening, but like, I'm not going to explain the whole thing, but basically it's like a businessman goes to a dock and sees a fisherman fishing, and the businessman tries to explain about how he can make all this money and renting out the boats and whatever. And the fisherman just says, like, what? So I can come back and have my free time so I can fish? Like, I'm already doing that, right? So the simplicity of your life at a certain point, dialing it down, we're realizing it. We don't really want a simple, like 100% bland life. That's not what we're saying, but it's like the peace of mind and like doing what you want when you want, and not having to have more shit or more things, you know? And that's I feel like that's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah. I mean, the people I look up to are like the people who are like the entrepreneurs, or like they have real estate, and like they're just able to do whatever they want. And they're very low key about it too. Like, they're not famous or anything. They're just like the normal, like person walking down the street, and you wouldn't know, but he has like a multi-million-dollar portfolio and has a business, and you probably never even heard of the business either. Like those are the people like I'm like, I think I'm going to be like that when I'm older.
100%.
The millionaire next door, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Well, Andrew, it was a pleasure having you on the show, man. I think your story is super relatable, and we obviously have connected on social, and it's good to put finally a face to a name. But I think sharing your story here is not only going to inspire others to do the same, but to show that it's possible to be done. And you don't have to go over the top. You just can slow, steady wins along the way, and making the right moves can set you up to potentially retire at 30. And I know age is only a number, but to have that peace of mind and financial stability so young, it allows you to pursue passions and live the life the way you want. So I think it was very important we shared your story today. And Corey and I really appreciate you coming on here, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys inviting me on. Like, yeah, it was long overdue, and no, it was great talking with you guys.
Yeah, man, we had a great time. If people want to learn more about you, they want to learn your story, they want to follow your journey, they want to connect, whatever it may be, maybe you can create some more connections out of it. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, usually my Instagram. I'm on Instagram a lot. That's kind of my primary social media. It's at Millennial Money Veteran. And yeah, I mean, I get a lot of DMs. I always like try to connect. I respond to almost all of them. So if anyone wants to reach out there, happy to connect with them and chat.
Cool. Just to reiterate, it's Millennial Money Veteran, and we'll make sure to tag him. But yeah, Andrew, once again, it was a pleasure, man, and we look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the Weekly Juice Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share with friends. The more ratings we get, the more ears we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you with more high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod, where we post daily tips and tricks and document our own journey towards financial freedom. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice.